This experience will teach you how to look at things with the intention of taking the skills that you learn here to a bigger form, to your life, to your work, where you live, in your work in your community, work in your family, so on and so forth.
So this whole story we realized was kind of a bigger story about segregated schools in Cincinnati and about what that meant.
Make a case, a rationale, if you will, for the necessity of media literacy, specifically media literacy for the purpose of implementing it.
Partly what connections may exist between the loss of our biological heritage and that of our linguistic heritage, and with the gradual loss of some languages, will we be losing at the same time priceless knowledge of other ways of inhabiting nature and of resources for sustainable development?
I want children to rub up against other children that are not of their faith. I say to my husband and I are atheists. I want my child to be with religious children. So, because no matter how much I, don't believe in God, I want my child to have that ability to make their choice about God, to understand the values and the beliefs and the commitment that I can understand theoretically, but don't appreciate the depth. So I want my child to be exposed and to participate in debate about it. I want, to have this issue. I want it to be up front in a school. So I think in that way, I always lean towards more symbolic clothing in schools rather than less.
Our problem is that we don't have the courage, we don't have the vision, and we don't have the heart to follow through on what we know works. And that is the great challenge of our time. Children have moved mountains the old-fashioned way. They have faith. Remember St. Paul to the Corinthians. Over the years of visiting schools, I've had an awakening. At first, it may seem like a trivial semantic distinction to some. To me, it is much more. To me, it explains the power of a child's dream. When we look into the eyes of a child, we often say we see the face of hope. I now realize, after talking to and seeing so many children, it's something more than hope. It is the face of optimism. There's a difference, we hope, with our fingers crossed. Optimism is a hand waving at the back of the classroom. Optimism is running to the library. Optimism is trying again and again at the language lab, the computer lab, and the basketball hoop. Optimism is a homeless girl waiting in the tide pools of San Diego, dreaming of being a laboratory scientist. I met her. I know she's in Florida. I bet she's in Texas. The truth is that America is not just in need of hope. The beautiful possibility is obvious. America is in need of a good case of optimism, and you catch it from children and young people. Ladies and gentlemen, I am still a carrier, so I hope we desist from hand-wringing and whistling past the graveyard to remember how our amazing ancestors accomplished so much. Again, they didn't have the wonderful research we've got. They had courage and vision and heart. I hope you go forward from here with those qualities, as well as with a good dose of optimism. Thank you very much. Sorry about the breaking down there.
I don't know if you know the whole story of Crazy Horse, but it is a rather tragic story. But I'd like to just make a quote of his. We preferred hunting to a life of idleness on the reservation, where we were driven against our will. We preferred our own way of living. All we wanted was peace and to be left alone. In South Dakota, there are 6 reservations. In the early days, there was just the one large reservation, but as the pastoralists and the graziers and people and the government moved more and more west, they kept dividing and redividing the reservation so that now we have 6. And I'm not sure if you know of the significance of the Black Hills. The Black Hills for the Native Americans, particularly those that live on Pine Ridge, is the centre of their sacred site. And in many ways, what we have done in the Black Hills would be similar to taking over the Cathedral of St. John the Divine here in New York, taking over Notre Dame in Paris, taking over Westminster Abbey, and setting up our commercial enterprises, which is what we did.